Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things. And now today we got a pretty interesting show for you guys, but before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. So as you guys know, Zion Williamson is one of the young phenoms in the NBA. He's one of these guys that came into the NBA and just pretty much lighted up the NBA. But the only issue with Zion is his lack of availability or his health. And a lot of that has been centered on his weight. A lot of people have speculated that the reason it's difficult for Zion to remain healthy is because of his weight. And also, I know that they worked on Zion Williamson's running mechanics, right? So Zion was a very raw talent, although whenever he did play, he seemed absolutely unstoppable. And he was. He was an absolute force standing at 6'6", which makes him extremely, extremely unique. We got some unique guys in the NBA. You have Zion, now you have Victor Wembanyama, you have Nikola Jokic, of course you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, you have Stephen Curry. So the NBA has a pretty interesting crop of talent there. So we know this. Now, what else did we hear about Zion? Unfortunately, Zion over the last 2 months made the news for all the wrong reasons. He got himself entangled in an absolute cluster, you know what. And it had to do, it was all by his own doing, by just being messy, sloppy, being naive. And he ended up turning himself into a headline to the point where we started hearing reports that, in fact, the New Orleans Pelicans were looking for a way to deal him. Now, is that because of the recent drama they was in? Possibly, but it could also be about the fact that Zion Williamson has simply not been available. Last time we heard him speak, he said that he was physically ready, but not mentally in the place to be. So to see him embroiled in all of these different stories, it was surprising to see. So, okay, so you don't have the mental capacity to go out there and play, but you have the mental capacity to find yourself in this type of mess. So a lot of people went off on Zion Williamson for basically just being naive and messing with the wrong people, essentially. So this morning, yesterday, we were sent, I was sent a story from one of the people that work with us here about Zion, but I didn't really spend much time thinking about it because I had other stuff, shows that we were focused on. So this morning I was going through the internet and I came across an article on Fadeaway World. And essentially this article is centered on a report that Ric Bucher of FS1 of Fox Sports put out there, where basically Zion said that he has no interest in developing his game further. But before we get into that, this video is brought to you by sponsor Aura, who's also the official sponsor of the T-Wolves. Do you know what the fastest growing crime in America is today? It's identity theft. Imagine trying to log into your email only to see that your password has been changed. Then you start getting weird notifications from your bank and credit cards, only to find out that all of your personal and sensitive information has been totally compromised. If you think it can happen to you and your family, just know that in 2020, over 49 million Americans were victims to identity theft, costing them a combined $56 billion. That is why we are excited to partner with Aura, who's the sponsor of this video. Aura is the #1 identity theft and financial fraud protection. Aura monitors the dark web and alerts you if any of your passwords and accounts have been breached. And funny enough, after using Aura, I discovered some of my credentials were floating around in the dark web, and the app showed me exactly when and where the breach happened. In addition, Aura allows you to set spending alerts and they'll notify you of any suspicious transactions. Aura is 4 times faster than any of its competitors in alerting you if someone is trying to open a credit card or obtain a loan using your name. And remember this, every 14 seconds someone becomes a victim of identity fraud. Don't let it happen to you. Now click the link in the description and try Aura for free for 2 weeks and see if any of you or your family's personal information has been compromised. Start your free trial at aura.com/dreamerspro. And when you try Aura, by using the link in the description below, also know that you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So let me just get into this article here. Zion has no interest in learning a floater and pull-up jumper, says NBA Insider. When he's on the court, it is clear that Zion is one of the best young talents in the NBA. He could become an MVP level player for the New Orleans Pelicans one day and is an insanely effective interior scorer due to his athletic gifts. Though he is an effective scorer at the rim, many suggested that Zion Williamson needs to diversify his game and add things such as a jump shot and floater to reduce the toll on his body. However, according to NBA Insider Ric Bucher, Zion Williamson is not interested in doing that. Where are the floaters? Up and under layups, his pull-up jumpers at the elbow. Now, from what I've been told, he's shown no interest in developing any of those tricks. tricks that Blake Griffin learned along the way with a decent three-point shot when the injury started to pile up for him and allowed him to single-handedly drag the Detroit Pistons to a playoff berth. And then it continues on to say, there's no doubt that Zion Williamson becoming a better all-around offensive player could help him on many levels. Aside from potentially helping him with his durability issues, Zion Williamson developing that part of his game will help him once he inevitably gets to the playoffs. So you heard what the article has to say here. So the question is, should Zion Williamson try to add more to his game? Well, let me put it this way. Should an NBA player add more to their repertoire? I think we all can agree that the answer should be yes. Why? Because you're getting better. You're getting better. Now, some people say, well, there's no need for that because you can master a certain thing. Fantastic. If you look at a player like, for instance, Shaquille O'Neal, who was unstoppable, right? He was unstoppable on the court. But what was the one thing Shaq needed to work on? Was his weight, right? So there's always some type of impediment. So if you have to work on your weight or you're not willing to work on your weight, you better have other things to help you get to the next level. You look at a player like Michael Jordan, came into the NBA extremely talented, athletic, slasher, but as he got towards the midpoint of his NBA career, he developed into one of the most lethal mid-range jump shooters in NBA history. Same thing with Kobe Bryant. As a matter of fact, if you look at Kobe 8, with the exception of 2003, 2004, Kobe, the earlier years of Kobe, although he had a decent jump shot, he was more of a slasher. And then to the point when he got to the second part of his career, he wasn't as aggressive going to the basket because he knew he could preserve his he didn't have to take all that contact by just being able to shoot jump shots because your jumper never goes away. Another player that, their jumper can save them for the rest of their career is Kevin Durant. His jumper is never going to go away. So he's always going to be able to get a basket. But in the case of Zion Williamson, what happens when the injuries start to pile up and your athleticism starts to slip? Then what happens? What happens then? So to hear that he has no interest in adding other things to his game is quite surprising. Number one, and number two, it says to me, okay, so if you're not willing to do that, what are you willing to focus on? Because from my understanding, after following the NBA for God knows how long, I know that in the offseason, players seek to get better at least one thing every offseason. You don't go into the offseason perfecting something or working on something you've already perfected. You go in the offseason, you humble yourself and say, okay, what do I need to work on? And you work on that. Give you guys a perfect example of this. I remember Kobe Bryant, who was probably the most skilled basketball player to ever play basketball. Arguably the most skilled player. Of course, you have Hakeem Olajuwon, you have MJ, but Kobe was just something incredible. But I think when Kobe turned 34 and they had Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, and these guys, and Kobe knew that he needed to run the offense more, Kobe then started to work on his ball handling skills. He was working on them with Phil Handy. Kobe Bryant, at 34 years old, a 5-time champion, a 100-time All-Star, whatever you want to call it, said to himself, no, I can get even better. I can get even better. So he did. All the great players get better over time. So to hear that, it was a bit alarming, but hey, maybe Zion knows what's best for him. So, but I want to know from you guys, what do you think about this report? Do you think Zion is onto something, that he should just stick to what he knows, or do you think that no, he should find ways to get better? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts in the comments and we catch you on the next show.